Well, I'm just driving down the road, heading to the Meadows. I just talked about stake races last night, this week in general, roughly, as far as racing goes. But there are other things on my plate. I have to switch gears this time of year all the time, from talking about and racing horses to now talking about potential horses that we're looking at. It's a tough transition sometimes, right? Especially when you had a rough week, to transition to Chipper Anthony that wants to, talk to everybody about what's exciting, what I see as exciting at the sales. When it's tough to be Chipper, it's tough to be Chipper. And the analogy I always use and tell everybody is happiness is only one win away. So Capistrano was the last race last night. She raced so good. Just a tremendous filly, and really happy for the owners, happy for the horse, right? Now, for a number of reasons, and I said this last night in the interview I did afterwards about the filly. This was a filly that came from a small breeding operation last year. She didn't come from a sale, right? So when the stable.ca opened its doors, so to speak, 4 or 5 years ago, our objective to begin with, because I didn't have a lot of money, was to approach breeders, approach them and say, listen, if you go to a sale and your last, in Ontario, and the name at the end of your horse isn't Sealster, or you go to Harrisburg, you're not from a brand name farm, or you're not a Hanover horse, you're likely not getting the eyeballs on you that you should and that you could. And if your horse goes for less, if you're a breeder and you're watching your horse go through the ring, you've raised it, you fed it, you brought it up, it's going through the ring, and this is a 20 or maybe you're hoping a $30,000 yearling, and it's hanging out at 11 and 12,000, and a guy like me is just sitting there smirking. You're about to take a bath on that yearling, a horse that you've invested a lot of time and money into. But in the past, you don't really have any recourse, do you? Unless you set up a system where you can take that horse, retain it, and then sell shares of it and give it to a trainer that is professional, somebody you have, because as a breeder, the most important thing is next year also. So you want somebody that can get the horse to the races, have good results, a professional, experienced trainer. So if you were a breeder, you had to be in business with somebody. Your only other option, other than a sale, is to keep the horse, try to parcel it off best you can, and give it to a trainer that can train it in such a way you're comfortable of the results that trainer can get. It's a tall order, and it's not something that a lot of breeders could do, have done, would do. But it's exactly what the stables.ca was built to do. One, it was built to bring new people into the business. I think we've done a pretty good job doing that. Two, for the other side of the business, it gives those breeders an out, because the more aggressive our ownership is, the more I can look at that breeder and say, listen, I know you think that horse is worth 20, but we have built an open market, and our clients will tell you what the horse is worth. Some horses sell fast. Capistrano had 40 shares left in May. 40. It's a filly I talked about all winter, but they all sold for more than what we want, than what the breeder was looking for after she started training very, very well. So that fair market value, building that market, that open market, was difficult to do. We had to bring a lot of people on, but once it's built, it helps our breeders set a fair price. So we have 12 horses in the barn right now that will go through that process in the next week or so. But as we started the stable, contacting these breeders, one, guys in the States didn't know who we were, didn't know if we could train a horse properly, didn't know if we had decent results, and really couldn't gamble and risk a lot on us. Some people did, but some people didn't. But as we get the horses to the races at such a high rate, as we've done over the last 3 years, and I think we've proven we do a professional job, we do a pretty good job, and our horses race pretty good all throughout the year. As we continue to build that reputation, it opens that door even wider for more breeders to come on board. And Capistrano was one of those horses last year that was privately sent to us. So the fact that she did well sends a clear message to other breeders, is that you do have other options, right? Rather than, go home and pore over your bills to see if you just lost money or made money in the market that is the yearling market, you can actually prolong that and say, okay, I didn't get my 20. I'm going to keep the horse, send the horse to the stable.ca. I'm going to try and sell my shares at 20,000. I'm going to hang on to that filly. I'm going to work with Anthony and Amy to try and get the best price I can, but in an open market situation. If you're an intelligent person and you price the horse accordingly, you'll sell those shares, which has happened in the past. Now, obviously, some people price them a little high, and they have to be adjusted. And in the other side of that, some people do price them too low, and they end up selling a ton of shares right away, facilitating them to raise the price of the yearling, but they've already sold a pile of them at a reduced price. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's good for us, and it's good for the breeders of North America. Well, I guess the world. We worked with a breeder in Australia this year. Our Heston Blue Chip filly and our Warwie Needy filly, both the breeders of both of them retained sizable chunks. So it was good for the trainer, Darren and Robbie, that ended up with those horses. They have potentially new clients and new avenues for themselves also, because now they've built a rapport with that breeder. So it's good for everybody. It strengthens the entire system, and it doesn't allow for the yearling market to be easily monopolized, right? Because when you go to those bigger sales, okay, yeah, you need to get over. Thank you. Wow. When you go to those bigger sales, sometimes, if you look closely, the smaller breeders seem to always get the shaft, right? They always get the short end of the stick. So this is a way to level the playing field a little bit, at least. I know we talk a big game, but at the end of the day, 700 clients spread over 11 countries, all buying horses in North America, not really going to change the industry. We need 5 or 6 fractional ownership groups right now like ours, leading to 50 in the future. That changes everything. And that's what we're trying to prove here, is that we've built a blueprint that works. Now we need people to take the ball and run with it. Hopefully they will. So, yeah, it was great seeing Capistrano win because of the situation with the breeder. And it was good seeing the horses race good throughout the fall. For us, the way we tweaked our program for the Ontario breds, I was concerned it wasn't working as well as it could. Maybe they didn't get off to a roaring start, although Capistrano did. She got off to a flying start. So yeah, I would say maybe that did work. We'll see, because she seems pretty fresh going into the semifinals and finals. And what else? So the fillies race good. Don't Believe Me, Just Watch come up a little bit sick after his race. Not really that shocking. Now, here's the kicker. He didn't scope sick. His blood didn't come back that bad. I was in Delaware, and I got a phone call from a veterinarian at 7:15. Said she was in Kevin's barn with the caretakers and Kevin, and that Don't Believe Me, Just Watch at a temperature of 104 and had really bad scours. And they were running fluids into him. For those of you that are horsemen out there, they ran 20 liters of fluids into him in a day and a half, and another 10 yesterday. Now he seems to be bright, seemingly fine, but obviously something went on with him last week, and not really sure. Now we had a couple of people on the board say, how are these horses possibly tight racing 3 times? Well, we do school them, right? And people might want to see their horses race, but that'll be up to Kevin. And he didn't want to race, although Don't Believe Me, Just Watch is a small horse. He does brush his inside knee sometimes, and until he matures and his shoulders grow out, Kevin didn't want to spend much time on a half-mile track limit. I don't blame him. Clinton was a disaster. And then somebody had said, well, Anthony drove him hard the other day. Yeah, I drove him hard. This is a tough game. It's not ballet. I drove him to get in a position to beat the 2 horses that were the horses to beat, and that was the 7 and the 8. When I look right and see the 7 and the 8 leaving, I'm going out of there a little bit. I let the 8 down in front of me. As soon as he cleared to the front, I came, cleared to the front, and then he removed, or the 7, whichever one it was. And then he removed. That horse that won the race had a much tougher trip than Don't Believe Me, Just Watch did. And he didn't perform well. And people saying, "Oh, I drove him too tough." Okay, I did. I drove him tough, but he had to be driven tough the other night. And if you'll remember, the night he won, he came first over down the backstretch for Sylvain, out around the last turn, and paced to the wire. So it's not like the horse isn't tough and can't race well. I assumed something was up. It didn't present in the scope or his blood, but it certainly did just after that. So Don't Believe Me, Just Watch was definitely under the weather. Now, obviously, when you have the scours, you have a temperature. If he's right today, if we jog him today, if he starts to rebound, that's still a tight timeline to get him right for next Friday to pace against the best colts. I'll be as upfront as I can be. One, I'm not going to drive him. You put Sylvain down on him or whoever, it's fine with me. Secondly, most importantly, we have to know that he probably isn't 100% going into the semifinals. This is a colt that was pretty sick the last 2 days. He seems to be coming around now and getting over whatever was bothering him. His manure is hardened up. His gums are bright. His gums have lots of color in them. His eyes are bright. He's coming around, but he had the scours for 2 days. He had the temperature for 2 days. These things play a major role. So going into the semifinals, we have to know that we have to handle him with kid gloves because of what took place. Now, the good news is, Don't Believe Me, Just Watch is as tough as a boiled owl. It's a maritime saying. Whalebone, another one. He's tough. He'll bounce back and he'll do what he can, but we have to manage him accordingly in his race next Friday if we can get to that race next Friday. I think we will. We'll see. I'm waiting for Kevin's update. Now, it's only 7:50 now. I'm waiting for Kevin's update on how he jogged. I'll probably know by around 10 o'clock how he's performed today on the track just jogging. I expect he'll come out bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. What else? Canadian Titan made a break the other night. I had said to everybody after the race that Canadian Titan had made a break. I thought you could see when Mario grabbed a hold of her really hard to let Jody go, she kind of fussed with her head and then gapped 2 lengths when Jody cleared down and then caught up. To me, as a driver, I thought he probably shut her air off a little bit. I guess he was a little surprised Jody removed. I was too. I was happy to see Canadian Titan as sharp and up in the rigging as she was. And she made a break coming in the last turn. You'll see horses do that have lost their air throughout the mile, especially trotters. You'll see them make mistakes like that. So I think what we'll probably do is inject that pallet. Know going in that you can't rev her up, because you can't rev her up like that unless you're going to let her sail. I mean, if you're going to quarter pull her to the front and put her on the front, then away you go. But obviously, and Mario was big about it. You know, he was a big boy about it. I get into the paddock after I'll Play It Alone. We'll talk about him in a minute. And first thing he said to me was, he said, my fault. He said, I think I shut her air off. And then sure enough, they scoped her about 10 minutes later, and there was some redness and bruising up to the palate area. So obviously that's exactly what happened. Easy enough fix. Change the way he drives her. He knows her. I had somebody actually message me and say, he didn't think that Mario's done a good job with Canadian Titan. Excuse me? He hasn't missed the top 2 all year, make one break, and all of a sudden he's not managing her well. I'm sorry. I'll go on a limb here and say I disagree with that statement. And again, I try to give everybody a wide berth, but personal feelings, it's the same thing. I scrub all the comments from the message board, and I despise the message board, by the way. I've said it a million times, and it will leave very soon. I'm getting a little frustrated. I understand that people are passionate, and after the race, if they disagree with something that's happened or what went on, they want to vent. I do too, lots of times. How angry do you think I was when Globetrotting run? Right? I want to vent. You have to leave me alone for 10 minutes after the race. I was angry, as I should have been, as I was. It's not the end of the world. What you need to do is take 3 breaths and realize this is a public forum. A public forum. And people put some things on there that maybe they regret saying afterwards. Maybe they don't. And I don't regret deleting the comments. And I'm a little frustrated that people sometimes write stuff. But at the same time, it is an open forum. You can put what you want. It is my site, and I'll delete them as I feel. And it's sometimes it's a little debilitating watching the comments come in. But at the same time, I try to give everybody, as I said, as wide a berth as I can, because I know it's your money, and I know people love the game, and people love the sport, people love the stable, and everybody just wants to see everybody do good, and everybody has their own opinions. You know what opinions are like. Everybody has one or two. So that's fine. Canadian Titan, aside from that, has had a spectacular year. She's put $40,000 on the books. One of the leaders going into the semifinals, and hopefully will do good. Now we have our other boy, Enduring Strength. Enduring Strength will be racing in the semifinals also. He's really come into his own the last little while. He won the grassroots the other night at Hanover, trotted in 58, raced really, really well the week before that. I would suspect he's going to be one of the leaders coming into one of the favorites coming into the semifinals, as I think he should be also. So we have, as it is, 7 that will be entered for next Friday. 8 Inland Beach will be entered, but likely 7 will come out in Ontario. So 6 of those coming from Mario's barn, I believe. Pretty good year, I think, and a pretty good finish to the season from the top barn. 5 of those. One of them's Don't Believe Me, Just Watch. One of them's Capistrano. No, Need Your Opinion. 4 of them. 4 of them from the top barn. I was trying to figure out how there was so many, because there's only 9 left up there. Anyway, a pretty good year in Ontario, pretty good year in Ohio, decent year in Pennsylvania. Caught a tough, I said this all winter, didn't I? Pennsylvania is going to be tough this year because we got a lot of really good looking Pennsylvania breds. It's funny how that goes. Some years they're watered down, and other years they're just iron tough. This was a tough year. A filly like Harness AM, only making $25,000 heading into the Keystone Classic, has raced good all year. Not a horse on earth has drawn poorer positions than her. Not even Not even West 52nd. Not even anybody. So she's drawn bad all year. Path of Totality is a filly, took America 58. She's got 20 grand made. It's just a tough year, but still, we're looking for a way to have good horses. That's what I've said all along. I want good horses. Path of Totality is going to be a good 3-year-old, probably going to turn into be a good 4-year-old, and a good 5-year-old. Our business is expanding, obviously. We have our eyes on a number of my MVPs this year in Ohio and selling still at public auction. We've bred both of our mares to my MVP, who's now standing in Ontario. So we have a couple of brood mares. We've dabbled and talked about growing that. We have a filly right now, Arvika, who was coming back into her own finally after 8 horrible races since throwing up some good numbers leaving for New York. She was 4th 2 starts ago. She raced well, and then the other night you could see she was probably going to be 1st or 2nd. I had a real problem with her in the hole around the last turn. She was bully as a bugger, and when I was getting her out of a hole and behind a horse that was dying in front of me, I clipped his wheel and she made a break. It was my fault, but man oh man, she was really, really good that night. And then you look at Pennsylvania again, Libero Hanover. This is a horse that trotted 2 or 3 times in 56. 23,000 made. We sold him on Gate on the online auction yesterday for $23,700 US. So at time of turning him out for his 2-year-old year, we got 30 Canadian for him. This is a colt that we bought for $11,500. He made 23, and then I think he made 23 or something, 25, and then we sold him for 23. So I wouldn't say we're not buying any yachts or planes with the revenue, the positive revenue from that colt, but at the same time, no red pens used with him at all. So we did good in Pennsylvania, as I said. Ohio goes without saying. We took somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 out of Ohio. That was good, and reinvested a lot of it. We already have 15, 16 Ohio breds in the barn. A jurisdiction that's been very, very good to us. We we have, as I said, we have 34 yearlings now slated in or coming into the barn. So those are hard numbers for the most part. And a lot going on with the sales, right? We have the Buckeye is on Tuesday. The online auctions are closing on Gate. I am bidding on 4 horses right now. I don't want to go on about who I'm bidding on. I guess it doesn't matter. You're not going to see this video for a while. There's 2 Angus Halls that I'm bidding on in 2 Angus Halls that I'm bidding on in for Ontario. There is a He's Watching filly, again, Ontario, that I'm bidding on, and a Triumphant Caviar I was put onto by somebody that knows the horse, knows the situation. I don't really love Triumphant Caviars. I wouldn't say they're banned or I despise them. I don't really love them, but having said that, I bid on 2 of them last week, and I'm bidding on this one in the sale on Gate. So we'll see if we get any of those horses. As of right this second, we have 34 that will be in the barn first of the week, I believe. One in particular you're going to have to pay close attention to. He is probably one of the best looking yearlings I've seen in quite a while. We're not talking about public auction. We're talking about just showed up in the barn. Yeah, he's something else. He's an Ontario bred. We'll introduce him to you next week. For those of you who keep this in mind, we have a drone day next Saturday for everybody. Now, some of these horses are only going to have a few days in the cart, but it's just a chance to show you how they look. So next Saturday, keep your glasses on. In the morning, we are going to drone about 35 horses, I'd say, and then I'll be getting on a plane to go to Lexington. I'm going to leave the day after the semifinals in Ontario, and I believe I'm going to miss the Buckeye final in Dayton. I couldn't make it work. It looks like we're only going to be Elson and Overdue Mission in together. Both of them are pretty good. You know, good drivers will get them around. We'll put the best drivers on them. I suspect Brett Miller, Dan Noble, Chris Page, that type of thing, will be there driving those fillies. And I'm needed in Lexington. I have to spend as much time as I can there because we have a ton of horses to pour over in the catalog. We have a number of groups I want to build. A number of people have come forward and said, again, they do every year, you know, I know the risks. We know how harness racing works, and we want to take a shot buying a horse that could be Grand Circuit. Okay. That list is pretty extensive, and as far as clients go, we probably have 10 or 15 clients that are interested in that, and I have a couple of horses lined up. So these are horses that are going to be a little more expensive, and as we buy them, they'll likely be already bought out before the hammer drops. But I'm not trying to exclude anybody, but these are rather expensive horses, and to be honest, be completely honest, it's not how the stable operates, right? We look for what's this say? Duty free. I don't want duty free. It's not technically how the stable operates. We like to find value and buy horses below the radar. Now, I still want to buy them below, but these are horses that clearly and obviously are going to bring a lot of money. Now, a lot goes into these sales, you guys. 2 things. One, we have a list of people that want to hang out at the sales. Please feel free to come out, hang out with me, you know, walk around with me. I'll show you all the horses I like. I'll tell you why I like them, and I'll tell you, you know, what our bottom line is, so to speak, on these horses. I like to keep that last little tidbit of information quiet because I don't want to. There's other people, as you can imagine, there's other people that watch these videos. So that last tidbit of what our bottom line, what our hard line is, I like to keep quiet, but obviously I can share it with our clients when they're at the sale or when they contact me at the sale. If you guys want to hang out, follow me around, get some lunch, maybe have a beer, I'm always around, and I'm going to be all around Lexington, so feel free. I'm never too busy. Everybody always says, I know you're busy, but I'm never too busy for our clients. That's the whole point of the stable. So feel free to reach out and come and enjoy the sale with me. Having said that, we're going to be doing a lot of work at the sale. I want to get down there early, I have a lot to take care of also. So I'm getting to the border. I'm going to sign off now, and I will talk to you guys soon. Remember, we have the Buckeye sale on Tuesday. I'm only looking at a couple. We have the sale today that's ending the auction, and then we have Lexington coming up next week. That is going to be a big, big sale for us. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.